to this week's Madi2theMax Vlog Talks. In this week's Furious Fast episode, I shall be discussing Furious 7. I sound like a surfer dude. I can't do Vin Diesel's voice. It's so low. I can do Bane. Let's do Bane.
Warning, this video will contain spoilers for Furious 7. If you have not seen Furious 7, you are doomed.
So I curled my hair for this, because all the girls in this movie all have perfectly curled hair. I also considered wearing a bikini, but then I decided against that.
Because I have standards, that's why.
Furious 7. If you are looking for a movie that has great plot structure, amazing characters, and all around makes perfect sense, go see something else, because that's not what Furious 7 is. This is a good movie in terms of Fast and the Furious movies. There's only two things that you know for certain are gonna happen in a Fast and the Furious movie. One, fast cars. Two, girls in bikinis. Yeah, you know what's happening. And maybe a plot thrown in there somewhere, kind of, sort of, ish, if you want. There are some good things about this movie for sure. Always the parts that I like about these movies is the kind of character-ish. I know there's not that much of a character, but when they are doing kind of character-y stuff, that's when it really hits home for me. And that's when I'm like, oh yeah, I like these characters, I like what's going on here, this stuff is really fun. And then there's just the Superman scale of destruction that happens on the cities they're staying in, which is like,
we're gonna destroy everything and probably millions of innocent people will die, but we're not gonna show that on screen because that would be a downer.
Okay, what part of LA do you think you're in where there's like no other cars on the street? Really? 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 Who are you fooling? Well, obviously somebody, because I bought a ticket. Okay, so the part that really hit home for me was at the beginning of this movie. It's when the bomb goes off in the house. It's just like for 2 seconds. It's when Brian saves their son and he's just like in the car and his first instinct is to slam the car door shut. He then gets slammed into the car himself, but his first instinct is to save his son, and that part made me go,
oh, you're a good daddy.
I really enjoyed the scene with The Rock and his daughter in the hospital, because it was like, aw, that is so sweet. Like I said, my favorite parts of this movie were the ones involving the family and the characters. So this is the one where it really ties in with Tokyo Drift. Something I'm really happy they did is, I really hated Tokyo Drift. I thought it was terrible. I hated the guy that was supposed to be the main character, this like 40-year-old that was pretending to be a 15-year-old and fooling nobody. That southern guy, right? When they brought him in for his one scene, I was like, oh, please don't tell me they're bringing this idiot in for the rest of the movie. And they didn't! And I was so happy! And we got Han's funeral and I'm just like, I cry. Though it's funny because he died in Japan and they had him brought back to America to bury him, I think. It's not really clear. The Ramsey character in this was so... I have no other words for it. She was just so completely... I'm here, I'm a pair of boobs, and I do computer things. Basically. That was the only thing to her character. So they went through this whole thing to get the God's Eye thing, so they could find Jason Statham so they could kill him. But every time they went through this mission, he was there. So they didn't really need the God's Eye thing to find him because he was already there. Huh? Like I said, movie had no structure, but it was fun to watch them destroy things. I love the part where The Rock takes off his cast. He's like, I've been in a cast for 4 days. Ugh, I don't need a cast. I'm The Rock. And then he takes the machine gun and he's just like, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, so much testosterone! You know the part where The Rock blows up the helicopter at the very end? That scene was so funny to me because all I could think at the time was, excuse me, Mr. The Rock? How did you know that you needed to shoot that bag full of grenades that Vin Diesel had somehow managed to attach to a helicopter while flying through a moving vehicle? We communicated telepathically through our muscles. Well, that makes about as much sense as anything else in this movie. There was kind of like 3 structures to this. There was the beginning half, which was like family-oriented and like character-ish driven. And then there was the middle half, which was like action, 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 random plot things happening that make no sense! And then there was the last like 4 minutes, which was just a memorial for Paul Walker. Paul Walker, you died too soon, man. And you will be missed. So apparently because Paul Walker hadn't finished filming all his scenes, they had to CGI recreate him for some parts. And I'm actually really impressed with that because I couldn't tell what was CG and what was not. So that's really good CG work. Thumbs up to their visual effects department. Still, given everything that happened in this movie, I still think my favorite Fast and the Furious movie is Fast 5 is definitely still my favorite Fast and the Furious movie. Because that just had everything that I really liked about the Fast and the Furious franchise. It really had fast cars cars, but it also had them doing a heist. And that was fun. Watching them put together all the pieces and parts that they would need and then pull off the heist. Not to mention, it was the first time that they actually pulled the entire crew together, and it was boss! So those are all my thoughts on Furious 7. What are some of yours? Let me know in the comments below. And from now until next time, don't you forget to keep smiling. And if you want to see more videos, then click right here to see more. In this week's episode, I will be discussing Life Inside Out. In today's episode, we shall be discussing Kingsmen, the Secret Service.